Hello everyone, I hope you all are having a wonderful day today. I bought a little Expresso orchid, this little tiny miniature orchid with these gorgeous little purple blooms for $4 at Kroger. Yes, you heard me. So I thought, for $4, I just can't leave this little orchid in the store. So what I'm going to do is I am going to bare root this little orchid, and I'm going to prepare it to be placed in the Better Grow premium grade orchid moss for you. I was going to put this one in water culture, but my miniature phals just don't do very well in water culture. So I'm going to go ahead and do what I know I need to do. I'm just going to go ahead and put this in this beautiful moss, and thought I would show you that step by step. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hydrate my moss. And when you're hydrating this, you kind of have to work with it. It's kind of clumped up a little bit. And I always like to use my gloves when I'm using new moss or new bark. It always tells you on the bag when you're working with this type of material to use gloves. So that's a wise thing to do. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more water to that. Okay, so while that is hydrating, I thought I would show you my setup here. I've got some charcoal chips in the very bottom of this pot. This pot is a 3-inch pot. So I'm hoping that this is not going to be too large, because this is the smallest one that I have on hand. Because this little guy is in, see, this is a 2-inch pot, almost a 2-inch pot. That's the only drainage hole that this one has. Now I have grown them in this type of little pot with a drainage hole on the bottom, but the only thing is they outgrow these very, very quickly, and you have to be careful with the way you water them in these little tiny pots. Okay, so another thing I was going to show you. In the store, I couldn't tell this because the lighting in the store is very different. But do you see how this is purple? This is veined purple. The leaves look purple. Okay, this is a purple orchid flower, of course. But this is also signs of some magnesium deficiency. So if I put this one in water culture, I don't think that it would do as well as if I put it in moss, because the moss retains nutrients really well. So that's another thing you have to keep in mind when you're choosing what media you're going to place your orchid in. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to water this really well. And as you see, the water just pools up in the top of it for a minute. Okay, this one is not as dehydrated as some that I have seen in older moss. So that's a good thing. This is a healthy little plant. But I'm just going to soak this really, really well so that it's going to pop out of there easier. The roots look like they're in good condition, so that's the first thing that I look at. Okay, let's see if I can just push this from the bottom, maybe. This is going to be interesting. Sometimes getting it out of the pot, these are like just little liner pots. So I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to jerk anything out of there. Sometimes if you can just kind of push it through this way. Yeah, this is the exciting part right here, trying to get it out of its old home. It's coming. Oh, just slid right out of there. Okay, I'm going to keep this because if my other pot is just too big, then I have no choice but to use this. But we're just going to see what we get. We're going to go on a little adventure here. Okay, now let's take all this moss off of here. Oh, wow, look at how much moss is here. work your way through this really carefully. This is just a tiny, tiny little orchid. So I don't want to damage any of these little delicate roots. The root system is looking good so far, so that's good. I think this was every bit worth $4. I always like it when I get an orchid for a good price. But I do see, like this root right here, that is definitely going to have to come out. Okay, let's just continue to really work carefully all the way around. Okay, and I'll be right back when all this moss is cleared off of these roots. Okay, I'm filming this with my daughter, and she said, "Wow, look at all of that moss, Mom. That is what came out of this, if you can imagine." Okay, so let me show you a little tip. When you are trying to work with your orchid, you only have so many hands, you know? So this little thing, the little outer pot, is really good when you just need a home to place that in for a while. I like to soak the roots really well just to get off the extra moss. This is a clean root system. If your miniature phals do well with water culture, this root system would be just about ready to go. There's a little bit of moss right there, but I think that would come off with a little bit of extra soaking. But you don't need to be so particular when you're placing it back in moss. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I've got these little scissors that I like to use on miniatures. When I'm trimming roots back, I noticed right here, that is a broken root. Do you see how it's broken up to the crown? So I'm going to go ahead and just trim that off. Okay, this part right here needs to be trimmed off. These little scissors just really help you get into these little tiny nicks and crannies with your miniatures. And this is an Expresso orchid, so it is especially small. The thing about my miniatures is, you know, they stay small for a while, and once they start growing, they grow really, really fast. Okay, I'm just trying to look all around. That I am going to leave. This I'm going to trim back. Whatever's squishy, brown, or mushy, you can go ahead and get rid of it at this point. Okay, let me show you. I was going to put it in this pot right here. It goes all the way. The root tips actually hit the bottom of this pot. So what I've decided to do is I put some charcoal chunks in here, and I think this is going to fit much, much better. So we're going to go with this container right here. Okay, so here we go. I've got my charcoal chips on the bottom. I'm going to line the bottom a little bit. I'm going to keep looking. I think I put too much on the bottom there. You know what? I don't think the charcoal chips are going to fit. I'm surprised that the roots are that long. Okay, so let's take the charcoal chips out. I want it to just grow into the moss. That's better. Okay. All right, I'm going to be filling in these little cracks and crevices. And I'm going to keep this light and airy. Okay, I had to rehydrate some more moss because I was using a larger container than what I thought. And my daughter just gave me this good visual. You don't want to pack it like packed brown sugar. You want to keep it really light. That way, plenty of air movement, and these little orchids, they just love it. The roots will go crazy in this beautiful moss. I've had really good success. You might want a little coffee stir or something to kind of help you get it in. Well, actually, I think this is going really well. But you don't want to use too much. You saw how much came out of that little compacted plug. And you want to just keep this nice and light. And I think that I've got a very happy little orchid. Look at that little bloom. Can't wait to see these other buds bloom out. And you can see the roots down in there. Keep it light. And I think that's a wrap. So thank you all for going on this repotting journey with me. And you all just be highly favored, deeply loved, and greatly blessed. And we'll talk to you next time.
Later, y'all.